Many coin developers require extensive infrastructure to maintain day-to-day operations, while hobbyists, investors, and traders require coin developers to do this securely and professionally. We are Spectre Security Coin, building a new kind of decentralized community.
What's up? What up? What's going on, everybody? We're back, man. Hey, listen, the funk is real. We about to get funky tonight. This is the after hour show. And I didn't think so. You know, you got a lot going on in love. And you you want to just, like, you know, lose your mind a little bit, right? And that's where we're at. So we are here live in living color doing it in 3D. As you can see on your screen, what it is we're going to be talking about tonight, the after hour show. Don't get me wrong, and I don't want people up, sound gone, just like that, sound gone.
Are you serious?
Yeah, sound gone, just like that.
Oh snap!
For those who are,
how many streams are you on right now?
3.
All of them?
Yeah.
Dude. Because there's no video. We don't have any video right now.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that amazing?
No, I can hear you. I can hear it.
Okay.
No, but he's talking about for the streams.
It's live right now. I can hear you guys right now on the stream.
Awesome. I can't hear myself. What is up with that? No connection. Oh, there we go. Need numbers again.
Title is still Factum.
No. Really? I changed it.
Yeah, she needs the numbers again.
Hey, the numbers are right on the screen. There we go. I can hear myself now talking. Okay. All right. We're back live. We're talking about the Project Bluebeam tonight. All right. So we're back live now. And I hope that you guys are doing well tonight. Listen, if you're here, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. And yeah, it says Factum. I'll be darned. Don't worry, I'm going to change it right now for you boys and girls. Johnny, are you still there? Big B, are you still there?
Yes, yeah, I'm still there, man.
You guys are quiet on me. I know. I guess we got the attention of somebody tonight, so.
So while we're waiting for this to come back together, what do you guys think about the Factum protocol? I mean, I think that's kind of interesting that, you know, it will be helpful to, like, say, have documents, videos, all of the kind of stuff, put to a specific, tax ID or hash ID. But it almost seems like, you know, then it's not you're selling people's data, but you're selling data to people.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you're almost charging them to document themselves.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how that plays out, man. You know, if you guys want to know, if you want to call in, the number is live right on the screen in big red letters.
Oh, there we go.
All right.
You there?
She has made it back. Hot diggity dog. All right, boys and girls.
Yes, indeed.
We're about to go deep. How deep? Real deep. Yeah. What is it? What is it? But on that Factum protocol, for you guys that are joining and are laid over with us, thank you. If you're coming back on tonight. Hey, listen, whoever's watching the show right now, this after hour moment, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and make sure you share this video, this stream out with everyone, right?
And make sure you know what it is.
Yes, make sure you know what it is. And we're talking about Project Bluebeam here. And, yeah, some minor issues are going on right now. So let's talk about what Project Bluebeam is, right? What is the Project Bluebeam? We talked about deepfake earlier, and I think these two things run hand in hand. For those who are tuning in on the True Planet 32 station, welcome. Welcome to the show. this is your first time viewing live, and I'll be watching you guys on that end there in a few moments. All right, get down. Awesome. Okay, yeah, we're on both sides of the fence. Sweet. All right, so we got multicasting going on 2 different channels, and we're on Periscope TV, which is a beautiful thing. Hey, listen.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah. What's the room? The Periscope.
That's a great question. Let me get that figured out right now and make sure it's live, because sometimes it'll jump out. If you got friends or family out there, Miss Nancy Owens, yeah, tell them to tune in tonight, because we're about to go deep.
Let's see if Alan wants to join the call.
Who is that? You're
Yeah.
a funny dude. Ah! He says, yeah, Alan, come on the call, man. I'm not doing that, man. That guy's not coming to find me. I got enough problems in my life. You know what I mean? John, you're a funny dude, man. You're trying to bring the evil forces of the world down on my head.
No.
You're so mean. Why are you so mean? All right, but hey, listen. So we're talking about the Project Bluebeam. All right. I guess they don't want us to come on Periscope TV. They don't like us right now. All right, so we're just on 2 channels. YouTube, True Planet 32, and right here at Your Crypto Daily. Listen, so let's talk about what the Project Bluebeam is, right? As you guys can see on the picture, what we're dealing with right here, stuff in the sky. Raining down like it's really there, but it's not. We talked about deepfake with the manipulation of data or content, right? Project Bluebeam, based on Rational Wiki. It's a conspiracy theory that claims that NASA is attempting to implement a New Age religion with the Antichrist as its head and start a new world order. Via technology simulated the second coming of the saviors of all the major religions across the world. The allegations were represented in 1994 by Quebecois journalist and conspiracy theorist Serge Monast. Later published in his book Project Bluebeam, NASA proponents of the theory allege that Monast and other unnamed journalists who both died of heart attacks coincidentally were in fact assassinated, and that the Canadian government kidnapped Monast's daughter in an effort to dissuade him for investigating Project Bluebeam. Project was also supposed to be implemented in 1983, but it didn't happen, and it was then set for implementation in 1995, and then in 1996, Monast through Project Bluebeam would be brought to fruition by year 2000. Really, definitely, for sure. And yet, we have not seen it. Truth or fiction? Does it really exist? Here's a picture here depicting the Christ in the sky in the form of a cloud format. I remember hearing stories about something of this sort that people were stating during the Gulf War, the first Gulf War, when we invaded Kuwait and Iraq and such, that they saw figurines of their savior there in the Middle East, and people began running, and that is the reason why we won the war so easily. I don't know if that's true. What do you guys think?
Me, myself, I've never even heard of this.
Oh, is that so?
No.
Well, welcome to some truth. Well, conspiracy depends on who you are. Yeah, so it all really started back in the 90s with this dude. I'm looking on here. The proponents of the theory have extrapolated that to embrace HARP, the Norwegian spiral, chemtrails, FEMA concentration camps, Tupac Shakur. Everything is part of the Blue Beam Project, as they say. Have you ever heard of this dude named Bill Cooper in the Pale White Horse book?
Not me.
What about you, Johnny? Have you ever heard of the William Cooper?
Didn't they make a little movie about that?
Behold a Pale Horse?
Yeah, an indie movie about that.
They possibly did, man. You just never know what these
No,
people.
but it's interesting that you guys were just talking about, like certain things like atmospheric engineering and, how they're doing things like that. But then also, people allegedly trying to start something like a space force, and trying to be able to rule things like the space, whereas as far as we know, it's supposed to be empty, so
What,
why do we have
space?
to, yeah, space.
Ah, man, we
So
know it's not empty.
well, so yeah, but I mean, that's what we're being told thus far. So then we have to build up something, and you were talking about them trying to start a alliance with, some kind of force or sect and all this other kind of thing. But what I believe is like through where we live, there are many different religions throughout this earth.
Right.
And all of them usually have a base around a God. They're based around God. They may have different ideas of him, different visions, different all this other kind of stuff, but it's based around a supreme being, and I would be led to believe that there are many other things outside of maybe say Earth that also can believe in the same type of religion.
Right. That is true. I mean, but everybody, everyone's religion, right, across the country and across the world, it somehow seems to have that same sort of subtle ending, where there's a great savior that comes on the scene, and there's a great evil that rises from the depths of the earth, and they both clash, and the good people are saved, and the bad people are cast into some internal damnation of hell, or outer darkness. No matter what religion you go to. Now, am I saying that all religions are the same? No, not by any means. But I believe that you know there's something that's been taught across the world, across the country, that some people believe that it's all true and that it's all one. And I believe that's where the evil that comes out of the ground is going to use for its purpose to bring people all together under one thought
Well, what if
and
you look
focus
at
on him.
something like oil?
Okay, talk about it.
Oil. You can look at oil as something that comes up out of the ground. People have processed, people have used it, they have industrialized it, they've turned it to money, and they have formatted themselves all the way to the point where almost everybody drives an automobile.
Interesting. So you think that's it's got a huge part that it plays on being an evil thing?
It all
Speak.
depends on how these things are used by man. I mean, it serves some purpose, to an extent, but we're a growing society. We continually have to change, and that's where we're at a breaking point right now, where the numbers are off. We're not living in such a stable time frame. It's a very interesting one. Don't get me wrong. A lot of interesting things are happening. Across the world, across the nations, but we are at a point of change where something has to be different. And that's why I think everybody's looking at new technologies or new resources or new innovations in order to change from what we currently are to what we're supposed to become.
Interesting.
And just because somebody like might have an idea that they think this is the way to go, and we need to follow this order or this ideology to be safe, doesn't necessarily mean that's what is meant for development, for growth, for humanity, for the continuation of creation that was started.
What do you feel about that, Johnny Boy Crypto? You out there?
Yeah, I'm here.
What are you thinking about all this, man?
It's I'm still trying to wrap my brain around deep fake and Mandela effect.
And so talk about that Mandela effect, man, for those who don't know what that is.
It's the theory that what you know as a memory has changed over time. Like, for instance, a verse in the Bible may have said, you have thought it said one thing your whole life, and then you go back to read that same verse and it's been changed. The wording's been changed, and everybody you know notices the same thing once you point it out. It's like, wow, I could have sworn it said something else. Possibly wording, how things are worded, symbols, even you know, deaths of celebrities. Everybody thought, you know, a certain amount of people thought Nelson Mandela passed away that's where they got the name Mandela effect, because a large group of people thought Nelson Mandela passed away many years ago. So there's this whole like twilight zone where, like, you know, half the population thought history was one thing and the other. It's hard to wrap your brain around, but just Google search Mandela effect. And
what are your guys' thoughts on certain people being intertwined within history?
Like time
Well,
travel?
with the Mandela effect, and you know, based on how they define it, it's, in my opinion, Gorbachev. He was murdered in 1983. Yet supposedly he sat down with Reagan in 86 to end the Cold War. He was dead. That's the Mandela effect, from what I understand.
Fascinating.
That's where.
So when Reagan said, "Gorbachev, tear down that wall," now again, that one goes back to Mike Volan and Joe Biden and Bush and Clinton. A lot of them. Gorbachev had body doubles.
I'm not surprised to hear that.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of these people, like this Mandela individual, supposedly dead for 20 years. He probably is. It's probably just a body double, the one that appeared in 2008, unless they held him in a prison somewhere, which I think that's what they said happened to him, and that's how they explained it.
That man was hated by the powers that were in place at that time. And
around that time was the
apartheid. Apartheid.
Yeah, exactly, apartheid. And he was, if I recall correctly, one of the leaders pushing to get equality in I think South Africa.
Yes, that is correct.
Was it? Yeah, that's been a while.
Yeah, no, I got you. Yeah, South Africa, and all of a sudden he gets out and he becomes president. I found that kind of weird.
Yeah, but do we know? Yeah, like that's what they're saying. I mean, do we really know that was the true Mandela? You know, so
it's a crazy world that we live in. But we just wanted to make sure we touched on that, and for those, because you guys.
But body doubles. What's your idea on cloning that's going on?
Well, that's part of Order 66 for you rebel scum. You know, it is what it is, man. I mean, I think they've been cloning body doubles forever, right?
Well, certainly with plastic surgery, you can, you can work a little magic and get people to look, people who have very similar features to come out looking almost exactly like the original individual. But actually cloning a person and having them grow at exactly the same age, same time, same background, same thoughts, no, I don't believe in that.
But it's not really like the background, the same thought. You just have to grow something that is programmable.
Yeah, but you'd still have to have a human body and some sort of plastic surgery, because it's never going to be correct if you clone. If you have a cloning. I mean, and how are they going to grow an individual, to be, say, Mandela's age, to be 70 years old within a short period of time?
Working on the telomeres.
I think there's some truth in all fiction.
Working on the end of the chromosomes. The end of the chromosome is called the telomere. The telomere is what dictates dictates age and all those other kind of things.
I don't know. It's a stretch. In my opinion, that's a stretch. It's actors actors coming in playing characters such as Mandela. He probably was dead for all of those years, and what you have is a body double.
And interesting that you bring up body doubles. Like, how many times do you think that they've used body doubles to enter an event or to go towards something to make sure that nobody else is in the area, but nobody ever hears or sees or witnesses any of the body doubles entering a facility? They only see the real product.
In my opinion, it's based on they're trying to revive him again. John F. Kennedy Jr. He was dead in the early 80s, and he was at the behest of Blagojevich, which is why now recently, again, we talked about this last week, when my intel came out on the murder of Hoffa, Blagojevich was the in between, and he's the one who ordered the murder of John. It was done by plane with a date rape drug, and yet supposedly John. Now, when we crashed, and John didn't make it out of that plane. He was, he had been given the date rape drug. His face hit the windshield because when he passed out in midair. So he's been dead. All right, but yet supposedly. He lived until 1989. Now, that's the Mandela effect. That was not the real John. That was a body double. Not a cloning, just a simple actor who comes in and plays the role. Because, again, as I was talking about this last week, if you had Hoffa, and this gets into the Panama Papers, because that's where, with Pablo and Bush, that's where they stashed a lot of their money. They stashed it outside of the United States. Because
there are different financial laws outside the United States.
That I don't know. All I know is when I was with Pablo, we had made a little bit of money, quite a bit of money actually, with Bush, and we were encouraged to invest it in a bank. And Pablo did it, I did it, and I don't even know if it's still there. Even if it was still there, I'm sure they're going to take off with it.
Interesting. Like when people
some of us are on no fly. We've been rendered. In my situation, been rendered completely dependent on other people. Even though in the early years I did the contract kills for Bush and other entities, even though I have a degree in journalism and an additional 3 years at the University of Florida, I've been rendered completely, I have to be completely dependent on somebody else. So for me to go back and, even to get a lawyer to bring some of this to light, I would need money, and I'm going to be very hard pressed to find a lawyer because this is so complex, because all of this happened in one particular area with a lot of contract kills on both sides of the White House and deals with other countries. It's just not going to be an easy thing. That's for sure. But yeah, Mandela effect. That's just, in my opinion, that's just body doubles. That's code for body doubles.
Like I was going to say, interesting enough with people who are making a lot of money back in, a few decades ago or several decades ago, if you had your money here in the United States, well, then it had to be distributed somehow, or it had to be, allocated for. But if you would invest your money, say, out of the United States in different regions, you can almost create a social equity as opposed to just a financial amount.
What's a social equity?
Say, for example, if somebody went to Panama and bought up half the Panama Canal before the U.S. was there.
Okay, so and that's called social equity.
Social equity meaning like you have the means of the people as opposed to just the dollars that they're worth.
Okay. Okay. Well, something maybe. I mean, I don't know if I quite understand it, but I know that with Bush, we would fly in, go into certain equities and not equities, but areas, and a lot of these people were sick, so they needed. I mean, they very, very sick, so. Some of the Americans would come in and help. Is that what you're referring to as social equity?
No, what I was referring to was like, you were saying during a period of time, you guys were getting paid large amounts of money.
Right.
And so it all depends on how you deposit your large amounts of money. If you deposit large amounts of money here in the United States without distributing it, like say amongst the people, you have to find some other way, like say out of the nation, in order to distribute or deposit large amounts of money where there are different financial laws. That's one of the interesting things about cryptocurrency starting up now is cryptocurrency is becoming an international currency that is not bound by just one financial institution, but is a global international entity that can be regulated by different means.
Oh, okay. All right. I think I follow you.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, just something that, this is kind of what we work on nowadays.
Okay. Yeah. I think I understand now. Huh. Okay. Yeah, I'm a little suspicious of the cryptocurrencies because there seems like there's a new one cropping up every week,
And there is. And, how long does it take someone to investigate a cryptocurrency?
Okay. Why would you investigate a cryptocurrency?
Well, I mean, like, say, for example, somebody's selling a cryptocurrency here in the United States. They're under the jurisdiction of the SEC, and then the SEC has to go into that company and look through their books.
Oh, okay. All right.
But if you have 2,000 companies, and these companies are worldwide, there's only so much jurisdiction that's out there.
Oh, okay, and that's where if you're a world traveler, you have knowledge of each country, and that's where they certainly would have the advantage. People who have money to travel and understand each of these countries, which pretty much boils down to the politicians.
Yeah, kind of the people who have money to make money.
Exactly, yeah.
I have a question for you, Miss Owens.
Okay.
How is it? And I don't know if Johnny asked this question. I had to step away from the microphone for a moment. And I think this is a burning question everyone has since you've been on the show. How is it that, with the information that you relayed to us on the air, that nothing has happened to you?
It has. There were many. Okay. If you go onto the internet and you go into look up People magazine, all right? I'm typing it, I'm making sure that it's still there. I think the title of it is Wild West, and then put in the name Clewiston, Clewiston. Okay, let's see if it comes up.
The Wild West 10.
Yeah, let's see where it's People magazine, and it's I'm not seeing it like it. Oh, there. Well, no. Where are you? Oh boy. A few years ago, I could find it. Let me take out the Wild West and just put in Clewiston and see if it comes up, or if they've gotten tossed it. Yep, I am not seeing it. Used to be it'd be right there, but it's not.
Wild West 10?
No, Clewiston. Clewiston.
Yeah, Clewiston. Yeah. Let me just try People. Let me see. Magazine. Maybe I spelled magazine wrong.
CLEWSTON, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Da, da, da. Anyway, if you can never find that article, that's one assassination attempt I survived. That was 2 weeks after I got my degree in journalism and started working for the newspaper, and the magazine, the article, and see that brings up something.
Is this a shootout in the street?
Yeah, shootout in the street. That's what it's titled. Shootout in the street. Yeah, that's down.
Now, was this around the same time as like Martin Luther King and all that kind of stuff?
I do not believe so. I don't believe so. Yeah, okay, it's that article, Shootout in the Street.
By Alan Richman?
Yes. Okay. Alan Richman, he came down. I was working as a newspaper. I met him. I met his partner, okay? And his partner, I was doing some research, and I ran across his picture just like 2 weeks ago. His partner apparently followed up on what was going on in Clewiston and actually ended up writing a couple of books on it, because we couldn't talk. I mean, after surviving that assassination attempt, Hayward and Bryant, these two guys were not fighting each other. That's what they wanted to be, this black and white racial fight in the street. That's not what it was. It was Mac Booth and Hayward Bryant. What had actually happened was Hayward Bryant was part of the cartel. He was an assassin. Somebody had sent him to kill me, and I was lucky because one of the guys that my dad, it's a small town. We all know each other. I mean, there was only like 3,000 people in the 1980s. So Mac Booth just happened to be driving up behind me, and Hayward Bryant was on the other side. And Hayward Bryant said, "Stop the vehicle." While I was sitting at a red light, and he asked me, "Is your name Nancy Owens?" And I said, "Yes, it was." And James Booth, pulled up beside me, got in between Hayward Bryant and myself, looked at Hayward Bryant and said something. He looked over at me. He says, "Nancy, get the hell out of here." So I went home, and I went and I fixed an egg sandwich, and it was a half of an egg sandwich, and I waited, and I was like, got back in the vehicle not too long after that, drove up to the stop sign and was like, okay, do I go to work? It was still too early to go to work, or do I go see what happened down the road? Go to work, So I sat there and I was eating the egg sandwich, and I was like, curiosity just got the better of me. So I went down the road, and it wasn't. They shot and killed each other. It wasn't, and again, that was just one assassination attempt that I survived. I've survived many, many attempts. A lot of times with help, and in some, very surprisingly, you never, being a young female, you don't. A lot of young men are going to step in, and just nature takes its course, So I survived a lot of them with help. But again, that's one assassination that I survived. That was in 1985, right after I graduated from Palm Beach Community College with a degree in journalism. And I was working. Now, here's the kicker. If you want conspiracy theories, here, honey, I got one for you. My boss's name is Jim Jones.
Yes.
Jim Jones was my newspaper boss at the time. Now, where have you heard the name Jim Jones?
Kool-Aid Man.
Supposedly, Jim Jones went down to Guyana with a whole bunch of people, and they all disappeared. No, that's not what happened. It was when the sheriff was killing off a lot of people to hide this supposed this imaginary serial killer that that was a BS propaganda piece put out to explain that he's saying that it's a cult, and all of these people who have disappeared down in Guyana. No. If you ever go to Clewiston, and don't even bother trying to get the Clewiston news on, if you try to do research on Clewiston news archives, you're not going to find them from like the 1965 up until some later date. During the crucial years that Jim Jones, and he wasn't a reverend, he was a editor of a newspaper. During the year that Jim Jones and others were running the newspaper, all of these newspapers had been pulled, and the reason they've been pulled is because they are totally, totally unreliable. And when you start talking about what you talked about earlier, blockchains, when you think of blockchains, think Genesis, okay? Because people are going to want the material, the information that I have, and so I can see already that you can't start a blockchain without Genesis. Okay, Genesis is the original event, and as I discussed with you last week, the Adam Walsh was a Genesis because that is the exact moment when Mafia backed away and Medellin cartel started up. So you can't do the history, and when it comes to the Medellin cartel, I am the expert on it because it was my life. I lived it. I know the exact moment when Mafia backed away and Pablo Escobar and the Medellin cartel came up. That's what you call Genesis. That's the very beginning of a blockchain. You cannot start a blockchain without having a Genesis. All right, so that's why these new words, these new things are cropping up, because it's a recognition that Wikipedia is totally unreliable. I mean, if you want to look up, dog breeds or cat breeds or plants, they're going to be, it's going to be reliable. But if you want to look up anything political, dealing with Hoffa, with Pablo, blah blah, Jim Jones, blah blah blah. All BS, because if you notice when you get onto YouTube under my videos, YouTube has inserted Wikipedia under there saying, okay, like Vince Foster, saying Vince Foster was 1994. Why does Wikipedia and YouTube feel the need to put in basically this information underneath my video? It shouldn't be there. You've got a lot of videos out there with a lot of information, but they've selected a few of us to sit there and put their information in. So what's going on is that people are starting to recognize that with Julian Assange and a lot of these other individuals who have been putting out false intel, Jerome Corsi, so on and so forth, they're going to have to toss this Wikipedia because it's totally, totally unreliable. Now there's an opening for a new information gathering, and of course, information gathering means money, and there's going to be people saying, okay, we'll let's do this, this, and this. But before you have the blockchain, you have to have Genesis. And I've got so many Genesis situations because I can tell you exactly where Pablo Escobar's mother worked. She worked at my elementary school. I can tell you Jim Jones and this Guyana, taking them down to Guyana, and that's why they all disappeared is bullshit. The Genesis is the sheriff. And if you put into your search engine, Sheriff Sermon, Sermon, Dias. Now that was our sheriff, Junior, and he was Pablo's friend. And you put in Falcon, Falcon, and Magluta, Magluta. You will find the trial of William Saul, and again, keep in mind a lot of this too is BS. Some of it's true, some of it's not. You got half truth, half lies. The trial of William Saul, and if you scroll down and read through that article, you will find one of the witnesses against Magluta and Falcon was our sheriff, okay, which is a joke. You know, that is like, it's a joke. Okay, there's no way that sheriff should have been given testimony on anybody, because he was just as corrupt as the rest of them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that too, the genesis, the very exact moment when Pablo Escobar and Sermon Dias Jr. became friends, it was when Pablo had molested me when I was walking home from the elementary school, and I was taken a week later by this same sheriff that I'm talking about in this article to be molested again. And that's when they started up their friendship. And that was like 1973. I mean, real early on. Oh, so that's another genesis. Okay. So,
wow.
You know, Wikipedia says Pablo's from Colombia. No. Bullshit. He was at that in 1973. He was living in Clewiston. In 1973 is when the friendship between Pablo Escobar and the Sermon Dias Jr. began. That wasn't the exact moment of the beginning of the Medellin cartel, but it was the exact moment of the beginning of the friendship of what would later become the Medellin cartel. So again, we have blockchains. You can't get the following information until you know the genesis.
Wow. Raw. Uncut.
Yeah, it's down and dirty. I mean, you know, there's just so, I mean, there's no toning it down. You have to describe it completely. The bodies, the cutting up, the rapes, the molestations, all of it. You know, you can't dance around it. For people to understand it fully, you've got to give it straight up raw.
This is absolutely insane. We're talking with Ruth Nancy Owens, half sister of
Nancy Ruth Owens.
Oh, I said it backwards.
If you notice, there's a Nancy Ruth in the Congress. They like to take your still. When people start focusing on a certain individual, all of a sudden somebody in Congress will pop up. It's like Ted Cruz. Now he claims to be the Zodiac killer. No, you know.
Ted Cruz is claiming to be the Zodiac killer now.
Ted Cruz is, yeah. They're trying to get the information away from me, get you to focus away from me and my information.
If you think about it, it's kind of like, you know, posting on the Inquirer. You know, the Inquirer will put out a fake story with real people to try to cover up what's really going on.
Exactly.
So, exactly. All the way up to the level of politics and what she is describing. Well, the best way to cover up somebody is just to make a new one, you know.
Exactly.
And like even something that I don't know if you guys are familiar, but the guy Freeway Rick Ross.
Oh, you should have been on the show last week then. Yeah.
Yeah, that was last. Yeah.
Oh, you guys talked about Freeway Rick Ross?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
Freeway's from my hometown.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. See, that's the thing people have to get. As I was saying, people have to get at. You know, stop thinking about all these things happening here, there, and everywhere. Bring it down to the swamp. Bring it down to Clewiston. That's where Freeway started.
Man.
That's where Obama's from. That's where Pablo's.
That's because where everything was coming into, and it was coming in, you know, by those planes and all the other kind of stuff. You know, they had to get it somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah, Pablo was a Hispanic, and they had already had marijuana coming in.
So he was the Hispanic, and then I would believe the sheriff was Caucasian.
Yep.
And Freeway would have been the African American.
Yeah, black.
So did they have
African American didn't come around until 1985 when I did Obama's forged birth certificate. My mother was from Arizona, and she met my father, who was in the Air Force. She moved with him to the swamp area, and that particular word my mother couldn't stand. And if we ever used this word, she would break out the hot sauce, and we'd have to sit here with hot sauce in our mouth for about 5 minutes. I kid you not. So when it came time to do Obama's birth certificate, I just couldn't put down certain words, you know. And here's the kicker now, you know, it was Pablo picked it up. It became a lot of things trends started in the swamp. That Miami look where they've got the shirt open, they're wearing silk shirts and gold chains. That didn't start in Miami. That started in the swamp. Genesis. The genesis of the African American term came when I filled out his birth certificate. I wasn't comfortable with the N word because my mama we would be punished for using it. I wasn't comfortable with Negro. I'm still not comfortable with it. And I was going to college, which is why we did Obama's birth certificate. And the only thing I was comfortable with was the continent, which was Africa. So that's why they've pinpointed that the birth certificate is fake, because you won't find birth certificates prior to this time that uses the word Africa. Guess what? It was
news.
a white girl who started this. I mean, that's going to be hard for some people to accept, but it's true. Africa, I mean, it wasn't used until 1985. And when we did the birth certificate, we just did one for him. Well, then it went to Maya. Maya was like, I'd like to have a birth certificate in exchange for me doing the longer birth certificate. I messed up the first one. So Maya Delgado says, I want one out of Hawaii too. So Obama was the first one and she was Hispanic. I don't know what she put on hers. Anyway. So Obama was the first one. Maya was the second one, and you have to keep in mind the one as Griselda. I call Griselda the second. Her real name's Olivia. She's a smart woman. She tried to kill me several times as things went on, especially when I got my degree in journalism. But at the same time, she's the one that helped me kill the sheriff. So I have had respect for her, respect. That gets into a whole different. We had like love triangles. She loved Rivy because Rivy was her hitman. Rivy was into me. He and I got married twice. I was loyal to him, but at the same time, I was loyal to Olivia. So, we had like a really bad situation, and she was trying to get rid of me, but at the same time, she didn't know she wanted to because, so anyway, we had a witches pack. It was, my mother, Griselda, Popeye's mom, and myself. We started off as a 4-witch pack in the early around. I don't know if it was earlier than 1985.
Let's pause.
But again,
Ms. Owens, can I pause for a moment, if you don't mind me asking? Because
sure.
You dropped so much information all on this once. So you were into Wiccan or Wicca?
No, it was just they were cannibals. When the Hispanics got thrown out out of town, I don't know if they were cannibals before, but certainly by the time I was in my teens and back out there again, they were cannibals. And they were into, the witchcraft, and they knew quite a bit. I mean, they were, when it came to certain things like, and this is not something I was proud of, necessarily proud of, but it was necessity. I didn't want to end up dead. I was pregnant, and she knew certain herbs, things that she could give you that would almost, it would kill the child, but it wouldn't kill the individual. So she had knowledge. She had knowledge above and beyond what Americans know. Where she got her initial knowledge from, I don't know.
Who is this now?
But she was a very, very smart woman.
Now, who is this you're referring to?
The one is Griselda Blanco, but her real name is Olivia. She wasn't the first Griselda Blanco. I'm the first Griselda Blanco. And when I was going to college, it was just, it was, okay, you don't need the reputation anymore. So the reputation, and remember, keep in mind in Spanish, blanco means white. It doesn't mean brown or black. It means white.
Right.
And it was transferred to her. And what Griselda Blanca literally means is white gruesome.
Wow.
Yeah. So
there you have it, boys and girls. Knowledge dropped on your head right there. Bam. Unreal. Well, I must say there's been a lot of information that's been passed on to us again tonight, and we thank you for coming back on the show. Don't be a stranger with us by any means. We talked a little bit about everything, a little Project Bluebeam, a little Pablo Escobar, a little Jim Jones, a little this, a little that. You guys have any other questions? Brandon or Johnny Boy? You guys
I'm good right now.
Well, hey, I want to say thanks for coming on the show again tonight and hanging out with us, Miss Owens.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
And
thank you for having me on here.
Oh, yeah.
I don't get invited to too many parties.
I bet you, yeah, I bet, like, oh, man, But hey, no, man, you're always nice to us. Our endeavor one day is to have Alex Jones on the show.
Yeah, he's not going to be too thrilled with me. I'm the one who complained. We can talk about that later on, like next week. The SES. Okay, do you remember when they started putting on SES, trying to put down this false intel?
Yeah.
Alex Jones picked it up. Phil McConnell, DeFango, a bunch of them started picking it up, and it was false intel. That's what got them kicked off of YouTube.
Wow.
So, I mean, giving you a heads up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's not too thrilled with me. Let's just put it that way.
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely give you a heads up.
His business crashed when he started putting SES out there, and I complained to YouTube.
Wow.
Yeah.
No worries.
And he knows the truth. He's the one who knows, from talking to Freeway, from talking to Jerome Corsi, and see, that's the other thing too. He put up Jerome Corsi, knowing full well Jerome Corsi was BS. So.
Wow.
It would be interesting. I wouldn't mind. It would certainly be interesting.
Yeah, it would be. That would be amazing. Well, okay. Well, hey, you guys, don't forget, like, subscribe, comment, tell us what you think below. Give us some update, some recommendations on what you want to hear, what you want to see, what you want to taste. I'm joking about the tasting part. But hey, to next time, join us next Friday. And I think we're going to try to do this format here on out. Do 2 formats. Give you a little touch of the wild side, a little touch of the crypto side, and make everybody happy, right? Well, I'm Red Planet 32, Johnny Boy Crypto, and Mr. Big B, Brandon Washington. Thank you guys for joining. We're signing off. Have a wonderful weekend, and see you guys next week. Peace.
Okay.
Hey, guys. See you later.